You are listening to The Diary of a Wannabe Writer, presented by Richard A. Boxshall, in which I chronicle my life and attempts to become a professional writer by, doing some writing daily, hopefully. Hello, today is Tuesday the 10th of December 2024. You're listening to The Diary of a Wannabe Writer. I didn't write today, knew I wouldn't, because I was actually going with my friend Campbell, that's writer T.G. Campbell, who writes the Bow Street Society mystery novels. Went to an event in London today, and I'm just going to spin across and get the website, called Focus, and it was in Islington, and it's basically a trade fair called Meet the Makers. It's in the Business Design Centre in Islington, and the thing on the website says, from film and TV to advertising and games, from pre to post-production, Focus is a trade event for anyone involved in the creation, production and promotion of on-screen entertainment. And I was basically going with Tanya because she was involved in a project last year around one of her books. And it was really, really interesting. So let me just get back onto the correct screen so I can see how long this has been going on for. Yeah, so we went to that and it was genuinely interesting. After kind of we met up, because she met up with the people who she was involved with last year. Or was it this? No, it was last year. I'm sure it was last year, but it could have been this year. I can't remember. Anyway, so once we'd met up with the people there, we went and had a look at the hall, and it was really interesting because I hadn't realised quite how many countries and territories offer incentives to film there. And so literally there was like one of the stalls was representing the Netherlands, and talking about the fact that you get a 35% rebate on production costs of any material you film in the Netherlands. So they actively are wanting people to film out there and will effectively pay you money to do it. They'll pay a third of your production cost. So that's really interesting. And it wasn't just them. So there were a lot of countries and territories that had stalls. They're telling you about why it's great to come and film in their country. And there were two places that were interesting that I really kind of looked at. So one, it makes sense if you think about it. English Heritage had a stall there. Because, of course, if you're looking at filming a period drama, the best place to film a period drama would be an old place that's maintained by people like English Heritage and the National Trust, because obviously, they maintain it and make it look like it's in a certain period. So in fact, that's a no-brainer really. So that was really interesting. And then the other stall that I've actively chatted with someone rather than just looking around and sort of dreaming, was Chatham Historic Dockyards in Kent. Now I went there, when was it? It was in February. I had a holiday in Kent and I went to the historic dockyard, and it's absolutely fascinating. And even when I went there, I was aware that a lot of the outdoor stuff from a TV show you must have heard of called The Midwife was actually filmed there. In fact, I wanted to go on the Call the Midwife tour, but unfortunately it wasn't running yet in February. I think it started up in March or April, so I couldn't go on it because it wasn't running. But very, very interesting. And they've got, for example, they've got, the place has got so much heritage. It's where they built HMS Victory and all the, the great warships of that era, I think. Well, I don't know about all of them. I think it might have been, I don't know. And one of the things that's still there and still in use is a rope manufacturer. So all the rope, the place where they made all the rope for riggings and all the kind of stuff you would see on these great old ships like HMS Victory, there's actually and it's about a quarter of a mile long, because what I didn't realise is that to make a piece of rope that's a quarter of a mile long, you need slightly more than a quarter of a mile space, because actually the threads are all twisted up to make the rope. So in fact, a thread that's a mile long probably won't make a mile long piece of rope because it's all twisted. But yeah, it's really interesting, and they still make rope the traditional way. For example, when I was visiting, they were actually making some rope for the Cutty Sark that they'd ordered, and proper ship's rope. Really, really interesting place. But as I say, they filmed Call the Midwife there, but more recently they filmed, and it hasn't been on yet, but Richard Osman's book, The Thursday Murder Club, has had elements filmed outdoors there as well. So it was really interesting, all the different places that offer you incentives to film there or bits and pieces like that. Yeah, it was absolutely fascinating. And one of the other things I did when I was there was I went to a talk called by a new Well, it's a website called My Smash Media, and the website is www.mysmash.media. And what it is well, that the people who did it described it as it's a bit like a dating app. So for me, as a writer, they want writers to pitch ideas through their website. Now, the website will, for a start, it protects you, so it effectively gives you proof that your idea existed as soon as you registered it with them. So if somebody comes in and claims, my idea was this time, they can go, well, actually, no, we can prove, this was submitted at this time and blah, blah, blah. So there's an element of kind of proof of concept being done at a certain time that it was yours and that kind of thing. But the idea is, so for me, it would be free, and the platform helps me create a pitch. Helps me create the log line, which is the 25 to 50 word, effectively very small pitch that a lot of people looking for particular projects will read that first, and they will assess whether they read more or get more information based on that log line. So that is like the really important part of the pitch. But anyway, this website helps you build the pitch, and it's free to me. But media production companies, and they specifically mention Channel 5 as an example, media production companies pay to have access to the database and will look through the pitches and see if there's anything that takes their fancy. So for example, they were saying recently they were looking for what they call cozy crime for a sort of daytime slot. So that's really interesting. I've been thinking that, I was thinking about my three, because I've got three projects that are kind of, I could pitch. So firstly, English Hikikomori. Now that's an interesting one. I don't think it'd make a TV series. I think it would make a cheap indie film. But it's a weird one, because the structure of the story, effectively, there's like an opening chapter or opening couple of chapters, and then there's a big chunk of it that isn't real, that it's basically somebody lying and pretending this is happening to them, and then the second half of the book tells you what's really happening. And if you've read the first bit properly, you'll start to realise that in the second bit there are some dark echoes of the things that happened in the first bit. And the idea is, if you think, oh right, so the idea is when you remember the stuff that happened in the first part, you actually think, okay, so what's the dark spin on that going to be in the real world? And it works in a book, but I think in a movie you'd have to structure it completely differently. I think you'd have to alternate between the fake and the real, and I think that way you would have to tell people, it would be revealed much earlier on that that it's a lie, that what he's telling people, the fact that he's telling people he's on holiday in Australia, is a lie. And so you then, but then you'd still be able to generate tension by showing the fake bit, and then let you wonder how it's going to influence what's really happening. But I do think that would be a massive rewrite. It wouldn't be an easy translation. Whereas I think both Still Life and Empress would translate. I think they've got a much more. I think they've got more of a TV show structure. I think they're a bit too complicated. Certainly Empress would make a better 4 or 6 part TV show than a one-off movie. But yeah, it was really interesting, and I will at some point pitch my ideas. I probably will try and pitch English Hikikomori quite soon, because it's totally finished, whereas I am one edit away from finishing Still Life. But yeah, it's a really interesting day out, really fascinating. I think T.G. Campbell enjoyed it as well. And yeah, it's just a bit of an insight into how the other half live, as it were. Anyway, I got so enthused about waffling on there. It's nearly 9 minutes in, so I'm going to shut up now, and I'll be back tomorrow. I do plan to do some writing tomorrow. There should be no reason why I don't. So thank you for listening. Take care. Bye-bye. You have been listening to The Diary of a Wannabe Writer, presented by Richard A. Boxall. Thank you for tuning in to my random ramblings, and if you'd like to know more about me or my projects, visit my link tree at linktr.ee/Richard Wright, capital R, capital W. Thank you for listening.